Hi, my name is Keith and I'm known as the Florida Stone Man, and today I'm going to talk to you all about shadow herbs. I've talked about this before and I'll talk about it again. So what are shadow herbs? Shadow herbs are something that you should be working with if you're doing shadow work. So what's the benefits of doing shadow herb work? These are just fancy names for uncovering really powerful aspects about yourself to become a much better person. So let's talk about different aspects of yourself that you can use when it comes to moving closer to a stronger, more powerful version of yourself. Let me get straight into it. The herbs you hate the absolute most hold the absolute most power. And it's a little bit busy of where I am right now. So when I'm talking about shadow herbs, are basically herbs such as lavender and herbs such as peppermint, herbs such as even cumin, or even the ones that don't smell good. Even if you don't like herbs such as black pepper, they hold the most power. So for example, the people who cannot stand, and yeah, it's a little bit busy where I am. So for the people who cannot stand peppermint at all, for the people who just, and yeah, I'm looking behind me because this is a new spot. For the people who just cannot stand peppermint, cannot stand lavender, cannot stand any of these herbs, you know that contains the most aspects of your gift, right? Like for example, if you cannot stand lavender, which is most people's most hated herbs, you probably have gifts of the crown chakra. You probably have gifts of clairvoyance and clairaudience, and if you just really tapped into that herb, you'd be able to uncover just really cool aspects about yourself. So let's go into this a little bit more. When it comes to shadow herbs, I'm going to talk about lavender specifically because this one opens people's gifts. So what if you just can't stomach lavender? That means you have to get a lavender shampoo, lavender body wash, lavender soap, and then people are like, oh, I can't do that, I can't stand lavender. So if you really can't because it makes you sick or something like that, then start small. So take a small essential oil and just take a few drops every single day. So as best as you can, like for example, if you have like a body lotion, put like 3 drops of lavender, and it's a little bit, it's the essence to get you started. So over time, you'll add 3 more, and you'll actually, people are knocking on glass windows, so that person needs lavender too. But and yeah, I'm in Florida, so I'm gonna keep my eyes very, very peeled, because especially in a new spot, people can be popping up. So you're gonna see Florida Stone Man go to Florida Self-Defense Man if I have to keep checking for people behind me. But you'd be like, just pick a different spot. Okay, possibly. But when it comes to lavender, that's people's biggest shadow herb. So lavender is the biggest shadow herb you can use. So what happens if you use lavender fluidly, and that's just an herb you cannot stand? So let's just say you can't stand lavender and you keep working with it. What happens? You actually, let's go into a little more of the scientific aspect. Disclaimer, this is a spiritual video. So lavender is very associated with the higher mind. So it has to do with peace, relaxation. So people who really can't stand lavender, for example, have problems with sleep or relaxing or taking it easy or not overloading themselves with workloads, etc. So when you work with lavender, you're gonna get your peace of mind back, but it might not be something you want to do because it'll bring things to the surface before it actually heals things. It's not very fun. So enough about lavender, because lavender is just so powerful, but everyone seems to hate it. What about if it's a shadow herb it's a very pungent one? Well, it still means you should work with it. Now, when it comes to pungent herbs, and I'm hearing many different things that you can't hear on the video behind me. I hear people knocking on glass, footsteps, etc. So yeah, I'm gonna keep looking behind me. It's Florida. So when it comes to shadow herbs, let's talk about black pepper, for example. So people everyone doesn't like black pepper. Everyone doesn't like the smell of it, or blah, 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 blah. Not true. It's actually one of the most powerful third eye-opening herbs ever. So if you take black pepper essential oil and you put 1 drop on your forehead, just a tiny drop, you can even dilute it. And it's just like, it just opens stuff that you're just like, what's this? You start seeing visions. Your visions have sound and color, and they're clear, and you're more present in the spiritual realm when you're trying to be than in the physical world. So it's just like, what is this doing? But let's just say it makes you sneeze up a whole bunch. It won't do that after a while. Let's just say that. So another aspect about working with lavender is you keep working with I'm stuck on lavender. Like lavender, because lavender is really cool, but it just runs people off. Most people off. So if you use a small amount of lavender, it won't. And I'll talk more about lavender soon, because there's some more interesting points that you guys need to know about lavender. It's actually more powerful than you can even think of. It's the stone of the angelic realm. It's Archangel Metatron's one of his herbs. But lavender is a very powerful example. But let's talk about black pepper. Black pepper is a shadow herb for most people. So I'm talking about most people's shadow herbs. So it goes into the subconscious. It has to do with same energies of obsidian, which is pretty cool. So if you, for example, a little secret is when you take an herb and you, like, let's just say you're making perfume or cologne and you add a little tiny drop of black pepper, it makes the whole batch stronger. So it makes it much, much stronger, which is really cool. So it makes it stronger as in potency. It increases its power. It increases its abilities, which is really cool. And the black pepper will amplify everything about that, but not be too strong. So let's just say if someone can't smell, now they can smell you spiritually. How cool is that? So black pepper is an amplifier, and it goes into the subconscious mind, and it opens gifts, and it taps into things that are locked off. And just think about what happens when you add black pepper to food. It adds taste to your food. What happens if you add it to your visions? Oh, it makes it so much more vivid, and it adds taste to your visions. You can see more and you can perceive more, and it's just like, wow, what's this? Yeah. So let's go into other examples. I want to go back to lavender because I encounter that for some people, they love the smell of lavender. They love it. On the contrary, some people can't stand it, so they'll run away from it. If they smell it, they'll want to throw up. They'll have an excuse, etc. But if that person were to work with lavender, they'd be more peaceful. So let's talk about peppermint, because that's a shadow herb as well. So peppermint's a good shadow herb. What happens when people work with peppermint? Some people can't take it. Some people will have a drop of peppermint and they'll be like, it burns. Versus when peppermint is at its most, when it's getting so icy hot to the point where you can't take it anymore, it's actually trying to calm you down. You're probably a fire sign, or you're probably an earth and fire sign, or a fire and earth sign if you can't stand peppermint. Most people are like, you called me out. Well, you have to think about it like this. So if you can't stand peppermint, and its energies represent ice and air, and it's just really calming you down, because if you're just too much fire, like you're too much for most people, or not, some people are too much for most people, but let's just say your energy is a little bit strong. Some people will be a very subtle person, but they'll have a very strong energy, which don't go hand in hand. So, it goes hand in hand, but when they're introducing themselves to someone, like, it could be intense. Like, your first introduction might be your last introduction because you were too much. Versus that herb teaches you how to calm down. So let's just say you're a fire sign or an earth sign, or have mostly fire or earth in your chart, and you got to introduce yourself to someone. And yeah, fire and earth. If it's just earth, it's different. But then you introduce yourself to someone, and they're just like, oh, it's too much. It's just like for some reason you overwhelm that person's energy, and they're just like, what happened? It's because your energy is a lot. And it's not a bad thing because it can be controlled, but an herb such as peppermint will help you feel icy and cool. And whenever you go to meet people, no matter how hot or spicy you are, it'll calm them down. So let's just talk about certain people with air signs, or gifts of air and gifts of water. So primarily gifts of air and gifts of water. Yeah, I'm keeping my eyes peeled. But a lot of those people can't stand patchouli. Yay, patchouli. I used to not be able to. I'm gonna talk about my patchouli story. I used to hate patchouli. Like, I never use that word, but I used to make me sick. I work with it so much to the point where it's my favorite herb now. It's one of my favorite herbs, because I have a bunch of favorite herbs. And patchouli is really grounding, so at the time I just needed more grounding. That was a long time ago, but I used to just not. I couldn't stand the smell of patchouli. It actually smells completely different than it does now. So with patchouli, that might be your shadow herb. So that could mean that most of your blessings will come in when you practice more grounding, with more restraint, with more calming yourself down, with more just grounding yourself into the earth. How cool is that? That's pretty cool. Now let's talk about other herbs. Now patchouli is really strong, so some people will just be like, wow, you're calling some of these herbs very accurately. Let's talk about cumin, because that just popped up recently. Cumin's a very strong smell, but even that will change. So when you use cumin, a stinky herb, like when I say stinky herb, it's very, very strong. So it's stinky the most, or even to myself, it's just like, whoa, it's strong. You practice smelling cumin, you're gonna open your clairalience. Yep, you open your gift of clairalience by practicing with herbs such as cumin. How cool is that? So I'm gonna talk about other herbs, because I just smelled an herb that my angel was trying to suggest. It faded. Great. Oh, that was the smell. Lemongrass. Thank you. So lemongrass, around another. A lot of people can't, because usually the angels don't like to repeat themselves like that, but this one did. Thanks. When it comes to lemongrass, most people can't stand lemongrass. They're just like, oh, what's this smell? Blech. It's a blech. And people can't stand lemongrass anything, but once they work with it for long enough, it's like, okay, this kind of relaxes me now. It's because, let's just say you had a receptor in your brain that's only calmed down by lemongrass, and your aura, etc., because this is a spiritual topic, not a scientific topic, disclaimer, but you use that receptor to calm down your brain, and maybe it's calming you down in areas that you don't really want to calm down in, that you actually need to calm down in, so you'll probably fight it. And that's what your subconscious is doing. And it's not even about the smell at the end of the day. The smell is just a frequency. Yeah, there's receptors and everything, but in the end, it's a frequency. It's putting off a frequency. Let's talk about other smells. Like, oh, this one's really interesting. Rose. Most people can't take rose. People are like, I can smell rose. Get rose essential oil. If that rose, and I'm going to teach another video on this, but that rose essential oil makes you sneeze like crazy, there are major blockages within self-love. And if you work with that rose essential oil very heavily, you won't sneeze as much, because your aura won't be allergic to it. I'm talking about spirituality here. And your aura won't be allergic to it. And you'll actually unlock a new gift of love within yourself. So give that a shot. So what happens if you take a break from it for a long time? Then you're off its frequency, and if you have gone back to old thought patterns and beliefs, then it won't work like that. Cool. Some really interesting topic. So let me think of another herb. So I talked about a whole bunch. Lemongrass, patchouli, rose. Vetiver is in the category of lemongrass. What else? Rosemary. Rosemary can be very strong for some, but it just means you need more protection. So let's just say you can't stand the smell of rosemary. And these are all shadow herbs. The herbs that you don't like or can't stand, they're all shadow herbs. There's a whole giant list of herbs that I'm not saying that you guys might just not like. So if you need help finding out which herb is your shadow herb, find out what that herb is. Google its elements and be like, okay, this has the element of water and air. And maybe you're a fire sign, you can't calm yourself down, or you can't vocalize. So let's just say, let's go to sweet basil. Sweet basil's water. Very heavily has a water element to it. So sweet basil will be very watery. So it might make you come in contact with emotions in order to reach abundance. So let's just say you've had all these problems with emotions and you not feeling deserving enough. Sweet basil will really help you with that. Let's talk about other essences because I'm going to talk about sandalwood, for example. I don't know who doesn't like sandalwood, but well, what if you don't hate any herbs? Let's just find your least preferred herbs then. For example, you can't stand sandalwood. That's not most people. That means you have to calm yourself down. You have to be grounded. It's trying to open gifts. It's trying to unlock a different pathway or key in your mind. Let's just say you love all the smells, but you can't find your shadow herb. Then start smelling different. Just find out. Ask your guides. Most importantly, ask the Most High God if there's an herb you should work with, and it'll pop up. I'll give you an example. I went to order one herb from Amazon, and they sent me a different herb by accident, but it wasn't a different herb. It was actually God's perfect timing in sending me the herb that I actually needed to work with. Now, there's other herbs that are like, for example, some people, they'll think ginger is too spicy and they can't handle it, but it just means you have to work on igniting heat and passion within your soul about a certain, because ginger is a solar plexus chakra herb as well, so ginger would really help you. Guys, if you have any questions, ask them in the comment section. I can go on for days about different herbs, but this is for you guys to learn about on your own as well. I'm prompting you in your journey, and I'm teaching more about shadow work coming up too as well. Until then, I'll see you guys next time. Make sure you check out FloridaStoneman.com. Ciao!